Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by Crowcast. Joining me, as per usual, is Macca. How you going, Macca?
Yeah, very good.
And the lovely Nikki. How you going, Nick?
I'm going very well after my girls beat Adelaide Uni today. So, yay.
Good. Anytime you beat Adelaide Uni is a good time.
It's our first time.
Oh. Oh, dear. Excellent. Big weekend in footy as usual, although it was a fairly workmanlike win by the Crows, and we'll get to that obviously. But first, let's have a look at the results from the round this week, round 7, of course. And it started on Friday night with Geelong getting over a very lacklustre and disappointing Greater Western Sydney 93-32.
They were a very weakened GWS. So they had a lot of players out, but by the same token, no, I haven't finished.
Their second stringers are still supposedly better than so many other teams.
Well, they really do deserve a kick up the arse for a lack of effort because although they did have very good players out, you can still at least try and battle and make a match of it, and they certainly didn't do that.
No.
Well, the only one who actually did was Dylan Shield. He was actually trying.
Yeah.
He certainly would. Yeah. Well, they tagged Caniglio to keep him quiet because he is one guy that does try all the time. But there were plenty of others you could point the bone at and say, well, you just didn't put in.
Oh, I wasn't impressed with Caniglio. I mean, he got, 28 posies, but he went at 32% disposal efficiency. They burned the ball so badly, GWS.
He's normally a good user of the ball, but he was tagged very heavily, and he every possession he got was under pressure.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. 32% is unacceptable, in my opinion. Anyway. Yep, wasn't a good loss from GWS, and the questions asked at the moment about them. I mean, I know that they're a bit light on, but they're not the only team in the comp. I mean, you can look at our injury list at the moment. But anyway,
I think we already agreed though, Phoenix, that we don't think they will win the flag because they've got the talent to win the flag when they're at full strength. But they haven't got the right attitude, I don't think, anyhow.
Well, I mean, it's still early days, round 7. All the action happens after the bye, of course, but not a good start from them, and they wouldn't want to fall too far off the pace because I think playing away finals will hurt them if they don't make the top 4. Saturday...
And
sorry, go
I
on.
was just going to say, just on that Friday night game, I stopped watching it after halftime. It was that boring.
Yeah, it wasn't the best game ever. I'm a big fan of watching Geelong anyway, but wasn't a great game. Saturday we had the Western Bulldogs getting up in a reasonably entertaining game against Gold Coast, 11-15-81 to 10-12-72. Gold Coast be disappointed, I think. I think they might have thought they might have had a win.
Yeah, so they did compete very well. I did watch that game. I wouldn't say it was a very skillful game. There were a lot of errors by both sides, but at least it was a very, very competitive one by both parties. I think that's about all you'd say for it, though.
Yeah, neither team shooting the lights out at the moment, but it was competitive. And, you know, they're the games that Gold Coast are going to have to start winning if they want to play finals anytime soon, because Western Bulldogs really haven't been travelling terribly well. And it's probably, if they look back on their season, Gold Coast, I reckon they might mark that down, even though it was, close. I still think that might be one that got away for them.
In fairness, they had their key bookends missing at both ends, which is a big percentage of their talent. And but at least they were competitive.
Then we had Hawthorn getting over Essendon, who seemed to have lost their way. Hawthorn 16-6-102 to reading the wrong one, 13-12-90 to Essendon 10-7-67. Worcester under a bit of pressure there.
Well, like I say, how the hell did we and Port Adelaide both lose to Essendon?
Essendon have always been fast starters. I'd like to know a stat of how many round ones wins Essendon have had, because I reckon it'll be stacks.
Seriously, I mean...
They do, yeah, you're right, Phoenix. From memory, they tend to start off quite well.
Yeah.
But they're a pretty ordinary side.
Well, Well, they're not. They don't seem to be playing with any system, and they don't really have a functioning forward line, in my opinion. They've got some individuals that play well, but
the critics say they've only got one style, and that's flat out, and that doesn't work, and they've got nothing to fall back on. And the Knights are definitely out as far as Worsfold is concerned at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think he gets a pass because he took them out on, after such a tumultuous time, but they'd want to start winning games soon. I think they were expecting finals this year.
Played finals last year.
Yeah, so bit to work on there. And that said, I don't think we should be underestimating Hawthorn. I think they've been playing some decent footy so far this year, and I think they'll be in the 8.
Got me buggered, when those two young, not young, but when their two speedsters went down, or the little guys, you would have thought they would have been in real trouble, but it hadn't seemed to be a problem to them. And Clarkson and Hawthorn mystify me because I look at their list and I think, well, it's a good list, but it's not the greatest list. But he has this capacity to get the best out of it.
Yeah, well,
I think to be fair though, Piopolo had. Excuse me. Piopolo has actually been contributing, but Rioli hasn't for quite a while. Yeah. Hence all those pieces of, don't look at his stats. He just still does all this other stuff. No, I don't think he actually was really contributing a lot, except for taking a defender out, because just in case he did something. So his loss, I don't think is that great. But Clarkson has always been really strong, and it devolves down to Box Hill as well. They have a very similar structure, or we've set up a very similar structure to them, that it's exactly the same game plan, and they really, really stick to it in both those levels.
Well, I mean, without drilling into this game, because who really cares, but, Essendon had more disposals, 50-odd more disposals, but they just burnt the ball by foot, and they went at under 1 kick-to-handball ratio, so more kicks than handballs. And I think it was Hawthorn's pressure and their efficiency with the ball in the end. I mean, Essendon had enough of it. They just wasted it.
Which is their way.
Yep, that's right. Then we had West Coast. Great win over the little brother down the road. West Coast 16-6-102 to Port 9-6-60. Port didn't look in it at any stage. And West Coast building a nice little season at the moment.
Yeah, obviously the second highlight of the weekend. Our win was the highlight, and this is the second highlight. And Port Adelaide had a third quarter where they got 4 goals in the space of about 10, 12 minutes, something like that. And that was the only time they looked like a football team. The rest of the time they looked bloody hopeless. And look, I think that they have been, by the pundits, they've been the most overrated team. They are an average team, and I would very, very much be very angry and hurt if we lost to them next week.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that one. North Melbourne also carving out a good start to the season, getting up over Sydney. Again, Sydney losing another one at the SCG. North getting up by 2 points there, 9-14-68 to 9-12-66. Sydney got some problems, I think. They just don't, again, another team without really a functioning forward line.
Strange team. They've lost 3 of their 4 home games, and they've won all 3 of their away games.
Yeah, and, including down at Geelong.
Which is quite crazy, really. But you got to think, though, that without Buddy, though, they are very vulnerable. There's no doubt about that. But then again, when they played Geelong, they didn't have Buddy then, did they?
No, but yeah, look, but see, Geelong don't stretch you as much height-wise. As far as I'm concerned.
Very true.
And don't forget, then it's not only Buddy that they're missing. They don't have Sam Reid either. They've really not got a lot to kick to up forward at the moment.
And that is their problem. Yeah.
And I think they're playing... Who played ruck for them on the weekend? Let's have a look. It was Callum Sinclair, the young lad. So
he had a big
He's not too bad, though.
No. He's good, but when he's your lead ruckman and you've got no tall timber up forward, you know you're going to be struggling. And North are a reasonably balanced team in terms of tools and smalls. And I don't think Sydney were able to adapt their game plan to try and run it in.
North are definitely one of the surprises of the year, though, so far.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think the jury's... They've got some good individual players, and them getting... Well, who's that lad that they got back? Mason Wood, he's a gun. I've always thought he's a gun. And he had a pretty good return. He kicked 4 goals and 17 touches, 9 marks. So, they're going to be around the place. Whether they've got the head of steam to get through a season, I'm not sure. But the thing I think for North Melbourne in their favour is that there's not a lot pushing up from underneath at the moment.
No. That's true.
And then obviously our game, which we'll talk about in a minute. Today, the Tigers getting up over a very, very, very disappointing Fremantle. You wonder how much the internal goings on there are hurting that club at the moment. The Tigers not kicking straight either. 15 goals, 21-1-0 to Freo, 4 goals, 9-33. That's
they beat them by 11 goals and 11 points.
Yeah. Not the scoreline of a team who's going to be playing finals, and they really fell in a bit of a hole this week, Fremantle.
Yeah, they've actually been very, very competitive all year, except this week. They just weren't in it, and Richmond just blew them away with ease. And it's very, very hard to get a line on how good Richmond actually is, and how poorly Freo played today. I did have the misfortune of watching a fair bit of the game, and I was very glad when I left it, actually.
Yeah, well, Richmond don't have a lot out at the moment. They'd be pretty much, just looking quickly at their list of players, they'd be pretty much full strength. So, given the condition of a few other teams going around, it's probably not unusual that they'd be travelling so well this early. I think after the bye is always when you start to judge teams, but they'd be happy with how they're going so far, and they're setting themselves up for a top 4 again. Yeah.
Looking at Richmond today, I was thinking to myself, what would you do to make sure that you beat Richmond? And I think one of the ways to get it is to get the game into a scrap, because they love to get out in the open and gun and run, and they don't have a lot of tools, but if you can actually sort of get the game into a scrappy game where then eventually you kick the high ball up forward eventually, I think you'd beat them. But if you let them get any space and run, they'll kill you.
Do you think there's any coincidence, Macca, in the fact that we've changed our game plan this year and we're playing that very much that short kick by foot and lots of angles and a very different style of transition game to what we played last year, which was far quicker and a little bit more chaotic and relied a lot more on our lead-ups. This year we're not relying quite as much on our lead-ups, and I reckon that's a direct response to what happened last year.
I reckon you summed it up well there.
And then we had Melbourne getting over St Kilda pretty comfortably, 106 to 67. Saints are just nothing at the moment, and the D's, I guess they bag the 4 points and move on. Not a very inspiring sort of a game.
Very ordinary. Richardson, he's going to be a query over him as a coach.
Well, he's had enough time. I don't know whether they've drafted well.
That is a problem, actually.
I think that club will be going very hard at Rory Sloane.
But what's in it for Rory? I mean, apart from money, what is in there for Rory?
And a captaincy.
Well, money, captaincy, Belinda goes home, family around the kid.
And you play for a bottom side.
Yeah, but he's playing for the side that he grew up barracking for.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if he... Look,
I mean, you could say the same about Jake Lever. What was in it for Jake Lever going to Melbourne, for goodness sake?
Oh, no, Melbourne definitely a team on the rise. Definitely a team on the rise. Definitely not straight away, but you can see that a couple of years' time, Melbourne will be up there competing with the big boys. And
not seeing
St Kilda,
I don't see Melbourne doing that.
I can. Nathan Jones will be over before they get enough games into their youngsters, and I reckon they'll... they just don't inspire me, Melbourne.
I think they have the problem. Well, Goodwin, but also those top draft players. They're like GWS. They'll beat teams on talent, but when it actually gets to hard, put your head down, bum up, and go after the hard ball, they won't be able to cope.
Nicky, I do agree.
Yep. And then to round it off, we had I didn't see this one, but entertaining, I would have thought, given the closeness of the game. Collingwood getting up in the end by 7 points. Brisbane, not a bad showing at home, and I've never seen I can't remember the last time I saw a team kick 10 straight in a half of footy.
Well,
and it was a wet game as well, a little bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I watched the last quarter, and a quarter and a bit actually, and then scores were level actually with about 1:40 to go. 1:46 to go, and Brisbane had come from about 30 odd points down, so it was a fantastic effort. But in the end, I suppose it's Collingwood just being marginally for a better side. They did prevail, but in fairness to Collingwood, of course, they only had a 4-day rest, and to get up and win, I think showed they really had to dig deep in the bottom of their barrel because they had Pendlebury on the bench with a bit of an ankle, and only with a 4-day rest, and I think they did a good job to win. But
4-day rest and the travel, that's not a bad effort for Collingwood.
Yeah.
I think it was a good effort to win, even though it was only Brisbane. Still a good effort.
Two really strong marks by Mason Cox in those last little bits of play.
Certainly.
And for at least one of them, he was up against Stephen Martin.
Yeah. The thing I've noticed about Mason Cox this year is his effort. He seems very, very engaged in what's going on. And, he's never going to be the most skillful big man in the comp, but he's huge. And if he attacks the contest like he has been over the last few weeks, then it doesn't matter how skillful he is. He's just he's a man mountain. So it's probably too early to tip the hat to Peter J, but he got on the Collingwood train early, and so far he'd be reasonably happy with what he's seen, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Anyway, on to matters at hand, and not a hugely inspiring game for us to talk about this week. Adelaide and Carlton. Adelaide getting up in the
second quarter didn't happen.
Well, yeah, 19-11, 125 to 10-10, 70. So a margin in the end of 55 points, just under 10 goals. Second quarter aside, I thought it was we clearly outclassed them in the first quarter. Hibernated for a quarter while they picked up their game, and then we did enough.
Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Right, that's the podcast.
Second quarter was horrible, actually, because they actually looked good in the second quarter. They're not good.
No, they did. To be fair, they did change things up quite a bit in that second quarter, Macca. They pressured us around the contest.
Well, they went one-on-one to start off with.
Yep, and we didn't want to do second and third efforts. And then we tried to be cutesy. Yeah, and you try and be cutesy, it's going to bite you in the arse.
It reflects badly on us, in my opinion, because they are a shit team.
Well, from what I saw, I wasn't at the game. I watched it on telly, but it just looked like we were playing like millionaires. We stopped chasing. Our defensive spread fell away. When we had the ball, we were trying very high risk, low percentage ball movement that clearly was against game plan.
And the crowd was letting them know we were not happy with them.
And as you rightly point out, Nikki, Bolton changed things up as he does with Carlton when they start falling behind. He goes man on man, and their work rate lifted, and our hearts weren't really in it for that second quarter. And I think it was, you could tell on the telecast that Pikey wasn't real happy at halftime, and it probably took a bit of a rev and a bit of a reminder of the type of game that we want to play for us to get back into gear. But at the end of the day, it's not easy to get yourself up for these games.
And then in the third quarter, we know one player in particular really took the instructions to heart.
Yeah. McGovern?
No, nope. Richie Douglas had a great third quarter.
He had a stunning third quarter.
He had a great game, actually.
Yeah, he only had 7 odd disposals in the first half, but I did feel
the bloody ball kept bouncing away from him. He was putting himself in a really good position. The ball would bounce over his head, and I'm like, oh, poor Dougie's going to have a dog of a game.
Yeah.
Not in the second half.
Yeah, no, I thought he did well. Let's have a look at some head-to-heads for what it's worth, see if we can pick anything out. 50 more disposals. Our kicked handball ratio was good. Interestingly, Carlton did handball the ball only half as much as kicking. So they really tried to kick the ball, whereas we obviously were a bit each way. As a consequence, Carlton outmarked us 107-95, although marks inside 50. Where the hell is that one? 17-9 our way. So it just shows you that they were kicking the ball around by foot, trying to work through our press. Tackles were even. Hit-outs were reasonably even, but I have to say, Sauce didn't impress me. He had one of those can't-jump games that he seems to break out now and again.
I don't think he's a very good player in Cruiser, though. Cruiser is one of the best ruckmen in the
It wasn't Cruiser that bloody belted him. It was the other lad.
Yeah, they actually swapped it up. I think he would all set up for Cruiser, and then they kept Cruiser away from him, particularly in that first quarter. I thought JJ actually did pretty well up against Cruiser.
Yeah, he did actually.
In the second, though, they switched it back up, and it was Cruiser back on at the start.
Yeah. Phillips had 22 knockouts. I actually thought he beat Sauce in the centre ruck contest and held his own quite well around the ground too. Sauce couldn't get off the ground. I'm still not convinced. Anyway,
he had really got off the ground all year, though.
Yeah, well, that doesn't make it any good, does it? He got the thing is he got exposed against Grundy. And I don't mind Richmond's ruckman Nankervis either in terms of his mobility. So I don't know. Anyway, what else do we have? Clearances were even, although they beat us at centre clearance and we beat them around the ground. That probably reflects what I was just saying, I think. 54-37 inside 50s just showed that they tried to keep possession of the ball, but they couldn't really penetrate our midfield press and our defences terribly effectively. Contested ball, we were up by about 22. Uncontested, we were up by about 55. So, and we went at 76 disposal efficiency. So that was probably the tail of the tape. And that, I mean, look, there was some fantastic passages of play where our ball movement and our method were quite evident, I should say, and our disposal was pretty clean, I think, for most of the night.
Yep, but at times, when times I'd have to say we looked rather classy, and at times we looked like we were very average. It was something we just didn't maintain it the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't underplay the pressure that Carlton brought to the table after quarter time, Macca. When you're cruising so easily at quarter time, we're 5 goals up, doing it on the bit at quarter time, and Carlton probably increased their work rate by about 25%, I reckon, after quarter time.
Yeah, I was expecting a flogging, but after quarter time, about 15 goals or something like that.
Yep.
And I was a little bit disappointed with the final result, but considering where we were at quarter time. But that's probably not giving fair due to Carlton, I suppose.
No. Were you there, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my impression was that he also threw the team around a little bit in the second quarter. I noticed. No, Pikey. I noticed that we had some different looks in the middle. We were playing at times, 3 off the back of the square. We had different forward configurations. It did seem as if he was trying a few different things.
Yeah, a little bit. Not too much though. That
we
3
played
off the back of the square,
much deeper.
We were doing that a bit in the first quarter as well. We were setting up traditionally how we do, which is the 4 forwards in a square, the 2 half forwards on the wing, and our wings off the back, and then our extra small off the back as well. So we were doing that in the first quarter. So that wasn't a change up. That's the way we set up our forward line. I think there was a bit of a difference in how we were going through the midfield, though. Yes, I agree. The setups.
Yeah, I think overall, we achieved what we wanted to achieve out of the game. We obviously got the 4 points. I felt like, once we stopped playing like millionaires and knuckled down a little bit, I still think our work rate was only about 75% after quarter time. One bloke in particular I felt dropped off after quarter time was Bryce Gibbs. I felt like his work rate diminished substantially after quarter time.
Sure did.
But I noticed him staying out of contests a bit, so whether that was a bit of an instruction, and that's reflected in his stats, which we'll get to in a minute, but he did seem to...
He was more outside because we had Hugh and Cam often minding Cripps or one of the others, and then Crouchy more on the inside. So he then became the more outside player. And you can see it a couple of times because I've only just started watching you, like in the first quarter, that Crouch should mark the ball, and he's always running past to get the receive. Sometimes it was there, sometimes it wasn't. But I think he was very deliberately being used as the outside player.
Yeah, very clearly that. I think that was the case, Nicky. Because otherwise you'd have everybody inside mids and nobody out there.
Yeah, just around the ground I noticed at times it was almost like a conscious decision to stay out, where at times I felt like he could have gone, but it just seemed like an instruction or
no, I think definitely think that was his designated role.
Yeah. Well, let's go through some individuals because there are a couple of really good performances. We had the usual suspects with the high disposals. We had Letty on 32 with 6 marks, or kicked a goal too. Rory Letty, be letting everyone know about that. 11 contested posies, won at 81%, 7 score involvements, and 13 intercepts. Just another workmanlike effort from the Gnome.
And the first AFL player ever to have 30 or more possessions in 7 games.
Yep.
In 6, I think. And
not bad off a half back.
And then he's added to that and made it 7 the record. So hope he keeps on going.
Yep.
They were sitting on him and Miller quite noticeably in the first half to try and curtail the run. And that's why Kelly got a lot more of the ball.
Yep.
But then, of course, in the second half, they kind of reverted and decided not to put anybody on him for a bit.
Yeah.
That was a bit stupid.
Well, I think once Miller went down, it changed the way we set up a little bit. As you say, Kelly got a little bit more involved and, Kelly doesn't move the ball as quickly or as aggressively as Miller and Lairdy, so that might have changed. And the fact that they went 1-on-1 too, Nick. Matty Crouch, 32, 16 and 16, had 3 marks, 4 tackles, 3 inside 50s, 5 clearances, went at 75% with 11 contested possessions, 6 score involvements. Turned it over a little bit, Matty, but still went at 75%.
A little bit?
Yeah.
A couple of dumb decisions by the boy, but he has just hopped straight back in as if he'd never been out.
Well,
so
I'm gonna contest that a little bit, Macca, because I think he's hopped straight back in to Matty Crouch mode of maybe 18 months ago where his disposals aren't hurting. I've noticed that since he's come back into the team, he's gone very much back into his shell in terms of his ball distribution.
Well, I can't argue with him. I was talking more about his ball-getting ability, but you're right about the usage of it. He was becoming quite elite with his usage of it. And at the moment, he certainly needs to sharpen up just a little bit there.
Yeah. I think it's time, time with ball in hand. I think it shows that when he's not quite in touch, he tends to look very short and look for the first option.
Yeah, very short.
Whereas once he's got his confidence up, he tends to hold the ball just a moment or two longer and assess his options a little bit better. So I think hopefully as his form improves and his match fitness improves, we'll see Matt being able to break away a little bit and be a bit more aggressive with his kicking. Richie Douglas, though, I actually best game I've seen Richie play for a while, and when he gets 28 touches, we usually do him pretty well. 15 and 13, 7 marks, 2 goals, 1, 2 tackles, 5 inside 50s, 8 clearances, 13 contested at 85% disposal efficiency, 6 score involvements, nearly 400 metres gained. That's what you'd like to see from your ex-club champion midfielder every week, I would have thought.
I thought it was a terrific game. I gave him the nod as our best, actually. And as you say, he wasn't as dominant in the first half, but, gee, he just got better and better and better as the game went on. And he's very fearless. You can't accuse this bloke of lacking courage. He takes some blows in the game too. But what I do like about him, he takes some blows and he gets up and keeps going. He had a very good game.
Yeah, I agree. For me, he was best on for the game. Whilst he didn't have, stats-wise, a great impact in the first half, as I said earlier, he was getting to the ball, he was getting the right spots. He just needed that little bit of a bounce, a little bit of the luck to go his way, and happened in the second half.
Yeah. Well, and more importantly, he was Game of Crows winner with 115 AFL fantasy points. So not many people picked Dougie, I don't think. Cam Ellis-Yolmen had another really good game, I thought. 25 touches, 4 marks, 6 tackles, 3 inside 56 clearances, 11 contested, went at 72% disposal efficiency, 6 score involvements. The usual comments about Ellis-Yolmen with regards to a little bit fumbling and sometimes poor decision making, but his ability to get the ball is outstanding.
Yep, and he uses his body well too.
Yep.
He was really controlling our, particularly our clearances around the ground. And whilst there was that little bit of a turnover, that was because Carlton were really clogging that space up as much as they could. But he was really working his way out. And the great thing was we put him on Cripps, and Cripps, of course, is taking him to the ball.
Yeah.
And he's that bigger body that was working quite well against him.
Yeah, and whilst Cripps got off the chain a little bit later, I think that's when Cam's duties actually dropped off. I think after
he got switched out, Greenwood.
Yep. And you could tell that's when Greenwood really started to come into the game as well, playing on Cripps. You'd love to have Cripps in the side as long as someone else could kick for goal for him. God.
Yeah.
That was a shocker.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant ball getter, though, isn't he?
Oh, he's fabulous. And, you know, what we've been saying about Ellis-Yolmen, I mean, if you've got a bloke 191 centimetres that's a bloody midfielder, got a bit of toe and knocks up getting the ball, it's a hard man to get around.
He's about 195, I think.
Yeah, actually, you could be right, Macca. Could be right. Look, Seeds had another really good game. I thought he's building a really good season, Paul Seedsman, and he will be there or thereabouts come club champion night, I would have thought. 23 touches again, 16 kicks, 7 handballs, 4 marks, 4 inside 50s, went at 74% disposal efficiency. Of course, the big stat with Seed every week is his metres gained, 615 this week, 5 score involvements, and he's become a real key element of our side.
Yep, and you can see that he's starting to feel good about himself as well. By that I mean he's got a lot of confidence at the moment, and he's little side steps and looking for people even when he's under pressure. I think Seeds is playing very close to as well as he can at the moment.
I actually don't think he had as good a game as he could last night. We've seen better games for him, and that's actually a great thing, that he still had that impact and he could do maybe a little bit more. It's such a pity that they don't, in the All-Australian team, actually put proper wingers on the wing position, because he should be a lock.
Yeah. Yeah, a wingman will never get a All-Australian gig because there's too many midfielders playing on the wings.
Correct.
They might put him in the back lines because he's doing Brady Smith's position. Yeah,
well, they do give they do give consolation prizes on the bench in the All-Australian team, so you never know. But he's certainly up around it. He'd be, probably our most consistent player this year, which should put him in All-Australian contention at this stage. Gibbsy, as I mentioned before, started off really well, and then I felt like he fell away a little bit. Only the 21 touches, 12 and 9. Did have 7 tackles, 3 inside 50s. Only the 4 contested possessions, which kind of underpins what I was saying before, that he seemed to be staying outside a little bit, but still 5 score involvements and 3 intercepts. Just a solid game, I think, from Bryce without anything spectacular.
Yeah, solid. I was a bit disappointed with his last 3 quarters in the sense that at times I was wondering where he was, but because he did have quite a dominant first quarter. So with the 16 possessions, I think he had about 9, was it, the first quarter? And
yeah.
It
Yeah, start off with a bang. Yeah.
Doesn't leave a lot for the rest of the game. So, I think he's doing what he was asked to do. Hang on. I've got a number of possessions. 21, sorry. That left about 12 for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But I was being a little bit unfair to him, but I thought he was relatively quiet for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it did just enough. Look, and it was fairly even after that. I mean, as you mentioned, Nicky, Jake Kelly got a bit of the ball once Miller went down. He kind of had to get into that.
He was getting it before Miller went down.
Yeah. 9 and 12 for 21, 5 marks, 4 rebound 50s, went at 86% because he doesn't really test himself with his kicks all that much. 7 score involvements and 6 intercepts. It was a pretty good game from Jake.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty useful.
Yep. D-Mac, I thought, had a really good game, put his body in, provided run. I thought it was a really solid game from him. The 13 and 6 for 19 disposals, took 4 marks, 3 inside 50s, 3 rebound 50s. Only got him down for 4 contested possessions, but he certainly was in amongst it quite a bit.
Actually, it's an interesting thing. I mean, how old is D-Mac now? And yet he's playing it at the most reckless of his career at the moment in terms of putting his body on the line.
Well, he's
very harsh.
He's had seasons like this before, Macca, I reckon. Generally every 3 or 4.
But to be a very, very, very harsh man who used him as a whipping boy this year, I like the way he's played this year.
Yeah, there were a couple of hitting the packs at speed and just taking the ball and going that were just superb.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, looks really good. PJ Crow's asking in the chat, is Jake Kelly a rookie pick? He came on the main list last year, didn't he?
He was a rookie.
He was a rookie.
Yeah, came on the main list last year.
Yeah, could have been a father-son for Collingwood, but they didn't want him.
That's right, they didn't want him. Huey really came into his own in the second half. I thought it was a good game from him. 9 and 10 for 19, 3 marks, 2 goals, 1, 8 tackles, 6 clearances, 14 contested possessions, disposal efficiency a little bit down, 63, but 7 score involvements and 3 intercepts. He's just building and building, Hugh Greenwood, and I think the best is yet to come from that lad.
I had him very, very high in our best players, actually, probably in our best 3. His impact, he may have only had 19 possessions, but gee, the way they were obtained are incredible. And those extra long arms of his, those 6 inches longer than normal for his size, they're very sticky, and when he grabs the ball, he just takes it so easily, and even under the fiercest of pressure. And I think some of his stuff, like the goal that Eddie got, for example, after Hugh had crashed the pack twice, and
actually adding Gallucci did as well. Yeah,
I've got to say that I thought Greenwood's effort was outstanding, actually, and played above his disposals. They belie his performance.
Yep. Well, you'd probably say that every disposal that he had some sort of an impact. Macca. I thought it was. I had him in my top 3, to be honest.
He was great. And what really pleased me about Eddie's game was that he was on the end of those results. He wasn't the person going in and making that crumb. He was the end result. He actually had some really strong bodies around him that were doing it, that he didn't have to go in himself.
Yeah. I actually thought it wasn't a bad game from Eddie. He had only had the 10 touches, 4 tackles, 4 inside 50s, 80% disposal. But I felt like he worked pretty hard, and I think you're right, Nicky. I think there was less of the the getting in and under and more of actually playing the role that a small forward needs to play. I still think he's lacking a little bit of touch, but that's okay. It's only round 7, so I thought it was a decent game without being spectacular.
Correct.
Look, and the rest really were, apart from a couple that I'll cover, like Lynchy, I thought played his role with 18 touches. Mitch McGovern had a great game, 13 and 3 with 9 marks and 5 goals, and a hang, which was pretty spectacular. I'm not quite ready to call Mitch McGovern quote unquote back, but that game would have done his confidence no harm, I don't think, and always good when you can get 5 goals. I still think he's lacking a little bit of touch overhead despite that hanger, because he dropped a couple of marks he shouldn't have.
But remember we talked about it last week that he seems to judge the ball better when it's coming in at an angle and not when he's going front on.
Yeah.
And those hangers, they were all at the angle. We were deliberately passing to him at the angle. There were a couple of times, so there was one that JJ had it, and he put that ball to him at that perfect position at that angle. So it's obviously something that the club's picked up as well.
No, I don't. I think that's coincidence, Nick. I don't think you'd ever find a team that sets up deliberately to kick the ball to a player at an angle.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nick. I have to agree.
No, but that's what we were doing.
No,
that zigzag pattern, and we were creating space. But he was that one that he did. He deliberately kept that open space in front of goal. He wasn't interested in going there. That kick was to that outside for him.
Yeah, I don't think that's for his eyesight though. Talia was solid without being spectacular. I thought Levi Casbolt could have burnt him had he kicked a bit better and taken a couple more grabs.
And not gone to hospital with a fractured rib.
Yeah, well, that was towards the end. That was pretty nasty,
well done, Tom.
Actually. Yeah. Gallucci, I thought, started to look a little bit tired for maybe the first time in a month. Down a little bit on his output of previous weeks, but still did some nice things.
I think for a youngster, he wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I thought he played okay, but the problem was that Dougie played really well and was taking a lot of those balls that he been contributing towards.
Yeah. Lukey Brown was just solid without being spectacular. Andy Otten was solid without being called upon terribly much. I thought I agree with your statement earlier, Nicky, that I thought Jenkins did well when he was called into ruck, and he seemed to be in the ruck a little bit more often than usual. He'd spent 91% time on ground, which maybe backs that up. Source was only on for 84% time. So I just felt like Josh had a little bit more time on the ball.
I have no doubt the coaching staff took Jenkins aside after his real shitter of a game about 4 matches back or whatever it was, when he really did play a squib game. And since then, I have not seen him squib. He's been actually making a very, very good effort to get the ball, or at least to participate in the action. And he's actually becoming quite valuable now, rather than before, when he used to almost become a spectator rather than take the chance of getting hurt. And I've got to say that whereas I had a lot of criticism for him in the first 2 or 3 games of the year, I've got to say that I'm very happy with the way he's going at the moment.
I just love that he's, like, almost every ball that's coming into that forward line, he's really making a contest of it. If he can't mark it, he is impacting. He's doing everything we've wanted him to do last year. He's doing it this year. He was interviewed after the game, I'm trying to think with who, but he actually talked about that he's done a lot of work on his marking because it's something that doesn't come naturally to him at all. He does struggle on it because he can't read the play as well as other players in that forward line can, because he doesn't have the background in football that they do. So he's been really working hard on that to really make sure he's getting that right body position and trying to keep hold of those marks.
I feel like the last time we had a premiership side, we had a bloke at centre half forward that was like this. Or, sorry, not the last time we had a premiership. The last time we... hang on a minute. When did Matty Robin play for us? He was in our premiership team, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
And Matty was probably a more talented footballer than Josh, but he had the same impact on our team in that you just wanted Matt Robin to compete. And I don't think you can ask any more of Jenkins at the moment. I'm not his biggest fan, but if he competes as he has been over the last few weeks, if he brings that every week, that's really all you can ask of the bloke. And he's taking some good marks and he's kicking, 3 goals. He could have easily had 5 goals. So I thought it was a pretty solid effort from Josh on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think whoever you mentioned of the turnaround in his game.
Yep, absolutely, Mac. I don't disagree at all. There was some disappointing players. Rory Atkins.
He had 3 tackles, though.
Rory
Did he have more than that? I saw 3.
Well, he had 3. There's probably an
4.
opportunity. He had 4.
Oh, there we go. And he got a hold. One of them, he got a holding the ball decision. I was very surprised when that occurred.
But he's one that's got to take along a similar line as we were talking about with Jenkins. That he's got a lot of skills, a lot of attributes, and he's got a deficiency, and he's got to work on that deficiency.
You mean stop running around like a headless chook at times?
That's one of the deficiencies, Nicky. The other one is to at least have some form of physical presence when it's necessary.
People just PJ being very, very negative on the chat tonight
because he's been doing it more than just against the Suns and the Blues.
Yeah, and Carlton actually don't have a terrible couple of key position players down back. Liam Jones is a difficult opponent. Rose, a difficult opponent. I wouldn't say they were terrible opposition down there. But anyway.
And he had Rory Thompson for the Suns.
Yeah. Look,
he's not an easy opponent.
The thing that worries me about Rat, getting back to Atkins, is that he struggled as soon as Carlton went one-on-one and up their intensity. And that's the problem with Rory. He doesn't like intensity. He likes that open, free-flowing style of footy. And I don't know whether he's a finals player for us. I really don't. And if I was picking the team tomorrow, it would really be a toss-up between Gallucci and Atkins to bring Sloane back in. Yeah, and I don't think it's... I'm sure they'll end up going with Gallucci as being the player to make way. But I think Rory Atkins, under those circumstances, could count himself very, very lucky.
Actually, we'll go through that afterwards. But if the 3 players come in, including Riley Knight, who's likely to go out? Because Miller is obviously one that's going to drop out.
Yep.
Fogarty would drop out.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to think who would be the other one, and it probably would be Gallucci.
Well, you'd probably say Gallucci, but on form, it should be Atkins. Despite Atkins still getting a bit of the ball, he's just not impacting the game. And as I said, he really struggled when the intensity lifted from Carlton, I thought. He's not impressing me at the moment.
See, Wilson's putting pressure on him from the SNFL.
Yeah.
Wilson's playing quite nicely on the wing.
Yeah. So, Darcy did some nice things again, but I still feel as if we've gone too early with Fogarty. I would have loved to have seen Harry Deer play that game.
Yeah, same.
But anyway, I don't think that's going to happen.
I wonder, though, did we also kind of do a little bit something regarding our SNFL team because we took Rob off at half time. So I think Rob played a half game, then he was pulled to rest in case he needed to come in tonight. Or that night for Sauce. We've done that before where we've played.
But why would we give a shit about the SNFL team? I don't care if the SNFL team loses by 50 goals.
Yeah.
Harry Deer needed to play.
I agree with you on that.
And I think the fact that he didn't play means that we may as well stop talking about him. Unfortunately. That's my impression. I don't think he gets a look in until the draft table. The trade table, I should say, which is a real pity in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's got a whole lot of tricks.
Yeah, well, and I think Darcy's very, very raw, and he's got so much. Like you just see so much potential in the lad, but he's only 18 and he doesn't have the tank. No. And yeah, I just feel like it was a missed opportunity. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm slightly different because you're quite right about the fact that he's not totally ready, and he also a bit short on the tank. But he'll be all the better for the run because he's had I think probably 3 games that he's played now, and it gives him a very good idea of what he does need to have, and gives him in the next pre-season he can really work very hard on that. And
yeah, but he's not the only player in the twos, Macca.
No, but
he's had a taste.
And what he dished up in the twos last week, he should not have come back in.
No, I just think he is the most promising player on our list to be a future star, and I think that...
but you still, if they don't put in the effort to actually chase and run and be defensive in your seconds team, they shouldn't get a free ride straight back in to the first team. That's actually teaching him a bad habit, that he doesn't need to perform at the lower level.
Well, I can't comment on that because I didn't see that, but I can only comment what I see him providing out there, and he is certainly trying to do the right thing out there when he's up with the big boys, and I think it's all good learning lessons for him.
Yeah, but he's a different player to Deer, and I think know we could have almost had a situation where we gave Sauce a rest, played JJ in the ruck, and had Deer as a second ruckman. I just feel like it was an opportunity lost, and I know we've got a lot of players out, but I don't know. I just feel like there's a bit of mismanagement there, but maybe there's an issue with Harry Deer as to why he's not getting selected that we're not privy to. But it just seems like a bit of a shame to me. Anyway, let's push on with our Jet of the Week award. I didn't put it out to Twitter because I've been out all afternoon. Sorry, people. A quick straw poll of the chat tells me that they don't know anything. So
you haven't asked them, therefore they haven't put anything in.
It was a very quick straw poll. My personal view, I would probably go with Richie Douglas.
Yeah.
Richard Douglas for me.
Yeah, if anyone disagrees with that on the chat or wants to have a crack at us on Twitter, go right ahead. AFL Crowcast.
Well, PJ wants Mitch, but Mitch wouldn't have done what he was able to without the work that Dougie was doing.
I agree with that.
He was very good, but he's very good with Governor, and if it's any consolation, PJ, I had him in second. So.
They're just going to town now on the chat. Absolutely going to town. Yeah, I'd probably have a toss-up for me between McGovern and Greenwood, probably for second best. But I'd probably go with McGovern on that one, just on output.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put Cam up there too.
He's definitely top 5. Definitely top 5.
The top 3 with Douglas, McGovern and Greenwood. That was my top 3. And then you'd throw in...
Ellis Shellman.
Probably Seedsman, then Ellis Shellman.
Oh, no, I thought Ellis Shellman was far more pivotal than Seedsman.
Than Seed.
I'd swap those two around.
Yeah, well, not upset with that.
Yep. Our... what do we call the bloody rookie one? I can't even remember.
Isn't it the rookie?
No, we call it something else. Jet. Shit. What is it? Talk about yourselves for a minute.
You're the one that created it. Come on.
Yeah, I know. One moment.
Rising Star? Or?
No. It was much more creative than that. It was Breakout. A Breakout award, which is probably pretty silly now that I think about it. Who qualifies for that? Ellis Shellman, Huey Greenwood, Galuch, Duday. Oh, Tommy had a dirty one. He's my nomination for Cockwomble of the Week, actually. And Fogarty, obviously. I think it toss up between Huey and Ellis Shellman, but I'd probably give it to the basketballer.
Yeah, Huey by a whisker.
Nick, what do you reckon?
Yeah, Huey.
Huey, yep. They're all saying CY on the chat, so shows you what they know. And our Wake Up Award, we obviously had a few. I'm willing to...
Can I give it to the Carlton Cheers squad and whoever designed their fucking Guernseys?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, who put the back pocket?
Or do we just put them in the Cockwomble?
They look like Yaka shorts. Look, Wake Up Award for me is probably a toss-up between Atkins, Duday, and someone else I was thinking.
I think it has to be Rat, because it's kind of funny because Duday didn't have too bad a game. He had a couple of bad moments.
Yeah, shocker.
But overall, he actually wasn't too bad. But I think he's given himself a really high standard.
Yeah, I think that he started off very poorly actually, and I thought he finished reasonably well, which probably saved him. And I'd probably go with Atkins too.
Yeah, Tommy, for the first time this season, Tommy looked a little bit tired for mine.
He was very, very vulnerable early.
Yeah, I just felt he will benefit from Hartigan coming back, I think. He looked a little bit tired, and that little Keystone Cops routine he did in the goal square.
He had to touch it, and because he had to go past the ball, it was just like, you couldn't really do anything else.
Yeah, he could have knocked it sideways into the post, but anyway.
That was terrible.
I think he was trying to, which is kind of because he slid. Yeah. It was just, there we go. Benny Hill music time.
Even Nicky would have touched that one.
Yeah.
No.
You keep saying that, Macca. It's a Me Too movement going on here. So, yeah, I'm happy with Ratkins.
You're getting a look again.
Said enough about Rory. We don't have to keep going on about it. Any last thoughts on the game?
I like Danos' call. He reckons Duday he'll benefit from J-Gov coming in.
Yeah, that's something for Tuesday night, I think. But, yeah, there is a little bit of scuttlebutt around. Jeremy McGovern suspending contract talks until the end of the year. Always a good sign.
I did like Ben Hart's comment regarding it, getting Mitch to give him a call.
Yeah.
He won't be coming to us. He'll be going to Victoria if he goes.
There's not a chance, Macca.
No, he won't go to Victoria.
Apparently Fremantle put a really big offer in front of him. He'll either stay in Western Australia or he'll come over and play with Mitch. They're the only two possibilities, in my opinion.
And he wants the 6 years more than a lot of big money. He's actually after the longer term contract.
Well, we're struggling to come up with the money for what's his name, Lynchy and Sloane.
We're not struggling. We're not struggling.
Yeah, we're not struggling. We're just not going to pay ridiculous prices, just like we didn't pay a ridiculous price for Lever.
Well, what does that mean then, Nicky?
We've got money for McGovern.
No, but I don't want to lose Lynchy for sure. I think Sloane might well go home, but and I don't think that Lynch will leave. But Lynchy, he's a linchpin. He's a connector.
He's expendable.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, there's only 3 players in our team that aren't expendable, and Lynch isn't one of them. Great, but don't get me wrong, I love him. Don't get me wrong, I love him.
Here's something interesting from that JJ interview, that when Lynch first came over, it took an actual awful lot to teach him how to play to a structure. Because he'd come from St Kilda where he just played however he wanted.
Well, in fairness to him,
it took an awful lot to teach him to play to that structure.
He got a crook old raw go at St Kilda. I remember him when he started playing. One week he'd get a game and half forward, and bang, he'd be out. Next week
because they had Rio.
And then he'd come in. No, but then he'd come in, then he'd play at half back the next game, and he'd get one game there, and then he'd be tossed out again. And he only ever got one game here, one game there, and then they're thinking he's no good. I mean, the way he was a first round draft pick, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was a first rounder. And he was treated like a piece of shit rather than a groomed to become a good footballer. And
because they also didn't have any structures really at St Kilda, you just played.
Obviously, and they've had no success, and they deserve to have no success.
Anyway, any final thoughts on the Carlton game? I think it's pretty cut and dried.
Well,
did what we had to do once again, sign a maturity.
Yeah, I think we had to get. We should really. Yeah, I didn't like the complacency. I wish we'd won by a little bit.
Not in the second
quarter. The percentage is going to become very important towards the point end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that we're just, pushing through these games, but I would have liked a little bit more considering we're up against Port next week, and it would be really good to have Port 2 games out of the 8 at this stage of the season. And I would hate to just drop one to Port on the back of just a little bit of complacency creeping in. I think a couple of the young lads are a little bit tired. I mentioned Dode. Gallucci, I think, needs a break. So probably good timing that we get Tex back in and Sloaney back in and maybe Riley Knight as well. Losing Miller is a big blow, in my opinion, given his early season form. Hopefully it's just a little twinge and nothing too terrible. But I guess we'll find out during the week what that's all about. But they've started using the word hamstring. They've started using managers and tendonitis and all sorts of things.
The sore spot behind the knee and all that sort of crap. I mean, they just don't want to say another hamstring. And I said weeks ago, there's something wrong with the training program. They shouldn't have players going down like they are.
Anyway, so the ladder, it leaves us with Richmond and West Coast on top, ourselves and Hawthorn third and fourth. GWS, I should say, with draw sitting alone in fifth. Then we've got 6 teams on 4 wins. We've got Geelong, North and Sydney inside, and then Collingwood just outside with Melbourne and Port. Freo and Gold Coast and the Bulldogs on 3 wins. Essendon on 2, St Kilda on 1, and Brisbane probably looking more likely than Carlton at this stage to break the drought. Next week's games, Hawthorn Sydney should be a cracker, I reckon, on Friday night. GWS West Coast, Carlton Essendon, Gold Coast Melbourne, some good games. The showdown, Freo St Kilda, Western Bulldogs Brisbane, North and Richmond should be an interesting game at Etihad, and Collingwood and Geelong at the G should also be an interesting game. So a few interesting games, a few ladder shaping games coming up next week. Yep,
as you say, ladder shaping games, which certainly puts a lot of interest in it. And the showdown, from my point of view, is a game that I don't want to lose, because much as I've rubbished Port Adelaide in the last couple of weeks, they are capable on their day of playing some pretty good football. And if we go to sleep for a quarter against them, we could find that we could possibly drop the game. So it's not like having us going to sleep for a quarter against Carlton. So I'd like the boys just to turn up with 100% intensity and just maintain it for the whole game.
Yeah, it's never one you want to lose, and it's important from the ladder's perspective, because we've got the opportunity to put a bit of a gap between ourselves and Port, and make it just that little bit harder for. They're only on 102%. They're the worst of the 4 and 3 teams, so to be able to drop them a game. Or so out of the 8 with bad percentage would be really good, I think.
Yep, and also from our own personal point of view of consolidating a top 4 position and trying to get in there and stay there for the rest of the year.
Yep. Now, Nikki, before we go, have you got a cockwomble this week for us?
I do. Are we going to do the low-tech solution again?
You can if you like.
I'm going to have my theme tune.
Well done, Nikki.
Still no rooster.
No, I'm not going there.
I said rooster.
So the Carlton Cheer squad for a really confusing banner that made no sense until I watched it and realised that they've only played at Adelaide Oval. They've played against Port, hence their reference to it's nice to be back to the Portress. We're all looking at it going, huh?
Well, I think that was a subtle dig that might have gone over a few people's heads.
Yeah, because we don't really care about them, so we don't know that they haven't been here. The other thing is those bloody pyjamas that are out there. I do think it is actually slightly applicable, because watching Carlton does make you want to fall asleep.
They actually look like yakka shorts with those stupid fake back pockets.
Yeah.
What is up with the shorts?
Those back pockets. So, Macca, what it is those back pockets. That's a little bit of chamois that they can wipe their hands on if they're getting,
a bit
sweaty. Yeah, it is. Because guess what? That's on the side of our shorts. As is hidden.
Jesus Christ.
Our players have that on the sides of their shorts. But theirs is that stupid little bit on the back. And, yeah, hilarious.
Yeah. Any others?
The lovely Tom Hawkins. For his dipshittery, I think it's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
On Friday night of touching the umpire. But then compounded by the idiot Richo in the box who said, I don't think there's much in it because that's what the umpire said. And I'm going, I heard the umpire say very clearly that was uncalled for and don't touch me. Then you had the GWS player stepping in with a look on his face of like, you're an idiot. What did you do to actually try and stop Hawkins going back at the umpire? Because he was shaping up to go get back in Margette's face. So we know he's an idiot, but thankfully it has been referred straight to the tribunal, so it'd be interesting to see what comes out of it.
Well, he'll get 2 games for that.
Oh, he should do.
He should get 2 games for it.
Absolutely, he should.
Yeah, I mean, he's just slapped his hand out the way. You can't do that.
No, he lost his shit. PJ brought up a good one in the chat. Nikki, I don't know whether you're across Michelangelo recently. He's been having a blue with the AFL Shouter on Twitter, and he actually Shouter posted a couple of messages that Michelangelo sent to him on Twitter, basically saying that the police had an open file on the AFL Shouter, and that he should be careful. So Michelangelo is now resorting to threatening police action against Twitter trolls. Unbelievable.
For what?
Oh, because he doesn't like
calling
what the
out on
Shouter
his
says.
vice? Yeah. Is he actually making any libel statements? Otherwise,
No.
Otherwise, unless it's not libel or slander, then he's got no leg to stand on.
Oh, he's got no leg to stand on anyway. And I mean, the thing of it is, like, why would you DM someone on Twitter saying, "Oh, the police have got an open file on you"? I mean, for goodness sakes, if you got a problem, just bloody take action. For goodness sakes, Richie'd know that. He's just being a dickhead
and keep quiet. He's doing that just to try and stop him. He probably actually hasn't approached the cops. A lot of people who make those kind of claims haven't.
Well, he did make a comment on the radio about the trolls and the fact that they don't seem to understand that they're liable for police action for what they're doing. So that's obviously related to that.
But it's absolutely puerile. The amount of unsubstantiated trollish articles that Michelangelo writes himself in a forum where there is no right of reply because they turn off comments online on the advertiser and
block people
on Twitter and all the rest of it. I mean, he's the big. I think I wrote on Big Footy that he's got a ton of jelly between his legs. He's the softest bloke I've ever met.
Hypocrite.
Well, I haven't met him, but ever come across. He's definitely a hypocrite. And that's just our view, so it's not libelous.
No, actually he is a hypocrite because of the fact
Well, you can't say that as a statement of fact. That's just your observation, Macca.
It's an observation of mine based on the most recent situation about the Borlase kid. He's saying this is so unfair that Borlase can't be a port man. I don't know if you heard him raving on about 5AA about that. He was saying...
Well, he's playing for Sturt, so he can't be a port man. He's playing for Sturt.
No, he was saying that, Borlase, his name is on the locker. This is the old man, Daryl Borlase. And Borlase is synonymous with Port Adelaide. The kid should be allowed to be a father-son for Port Adelaide, even though he hasn't qualified for the games. This was the same guy that prevented us getting Gibson dobbing us when it's alerting the AFL to the point.
And it's under the same rule.
The escort games, and he's actually bemoaning the fact now about the escort games. And the very same bloke who did not tell the AFL about the fact that Ebert was picked up by Port Adelaide as a father-son when he didn't actually qualify for the very same reason.
Yep.
So I believe that at least I can say that is hypocritical behaviour, if nothing else.
Absolutely, Macca, 100% spot on. And the funny thing is that, as you mentioned, Borlow's playing for Cert. That actually he's only part of the academy because he was nominated by his parents. So obviously Daryl doesn't have a problem with his kid playing in the Crows Academy. Anyway.
Yeah. And Richie's saying to the point that, in his opinion, there should be no if they played one game, they should be allowed to be father-son.
No, he's a bloody idiot. He's a bloody idiot.
Let's
That's
give
my
it to
opinion.
him for being the hypocrite.
Let's do that.
Hypocritic behaviour.
Give us the music. No music, Nikki.
No, sorry, I had to pick it up. My phone had gone to silent on the screen. So there you go.
So a cock for the Womble Award. A Cock Womble Award to Michelangelo Ritchie, and won't be the first and won't be the last. Anyway, guys, I think that's it for this weekend. A pretty stock standard wrap. Sorry if we haven't been able to get too excited, but it wasn't a terribly exciting game. But a massive week coming up with showdowns. It doesn't matter what the state of play is; they're always big here, and it'll be great to get another win over the pair on Saturday night. So I'm sure next week will be a massive one.
Yeah, I'm sure that to the people in the chat will be a lot more exciting one way or the other next week. If we lose, there'll be gnashing of teeth and weeping vigorously. And if we win, well, there'll be lots of crowing, and you'll be able to join in on the crowing with us. So,
that's right.
It'll be a lot more exciting next week.
All right, Mako. Thanks, Mako and Nikki, for joining us again on Saturday night. Thanks to all the usual crowd on the chat. It's great to have you guys on board every week. Catch us on Facebook and Twitter, AFL Crowcast, and you'll hear us again on Tuesday night for Tuesday Night Live at 8:30 Central. See you guys.
Yeah, good night.
Night all.